Today on M&B Media TV, we have Miss Treva Reaves on with us today to share her experience of tragically losing her husband 20 years ago this year in the line of duty. So first of all, Treva, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Treva, here on M&B Media TV, we love to jump right in to have those genuine conversations with genuine people just like yourself, just to share a portion of your life's journey. So the first question we love to ask is, where did you grow up?
All right. I grew up in Windsor, North Carolina. It's a small town in Berkeley County, very small town. So we knew everybody. Majority of the family there was, people there were family, and grew up in a family neighborhood. Everybody that was related to us lived on the same road. So, yeah.
Wow. Did you stay outside a lot?
Yes, we spent a lot. That was our entertainment.
Right.
Yeah. We had a park and a mini zoo in town, but we... most of our time was spent outside. Saturdays and Sundays was family day.
Wow.
Granddad's house, and we just spent our days outside.
What are some of the greatest memories that you had, growing up?
Wow. Okay. It would be spending time with my family. Yeah, definitely. We look forward to those Saturdays,
Yes, the
cartoons. And then after cartoons, our aunts and uncles would come over with their kids. And
right.
My grandfather lived next door to me. So we would just, wait to see the cars pulling up, and we'd all head over and just spend the day with him and the others. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Treva, as I stated earlier, you suffered a tragic loss where you lost your husband in the line of duty as a police officer. Can you take us back to the day your life, changed forever?
Yeah. That was, day started out, normal. We went to work, and I had planned to go to North Carolina that weekend to see my mom and sister, and came home from work and found a police car outside of the house.
Wow.
And that's something that my husband had kind of prepared me for. And he told me, he said, if you ever come home and there's a police car outside, something happened. And that day came.
Wow. So when you saw that police officer's car, it was like, you already pretty much knew. Yeah.
When I first saw it, I kind of thought he must have forgotten something and came home to pick it up. Because he had done that before. So I thought he just drove back home. And then I saw the other officer get out of the car. And I saw the expression on his face. And I just felt like I was spinning. I didn't know what, what's going on. And the kids were in the car. My daughter was 5 at the time.
Wow.
And my son was almost 2.
Right.
So I didn't want to panic, because I didn't want them to know that, because I didn't know what was going on exactly.
Wow.
So I had to try to keep my, composure.
Yeah.
And he approached me and said, I need you to come with me to the hospital. There's been an accident. And so at that point in my mind, I'm thinking car accident, maybe he had a car accident. And I went next door to my neighbor's house and got her, and she was familiar, we had been there long enough that we were familiar with her. And she was the only one that I knew really that I would trust with my kids.
Wow.
So I asked her to come over and watch the children. And I rode with the officer to the hospital, and he inadvertently told me before we got to the hospital that he was gone. So needless to say, I was a wreck. And I gathered myself together enough to call my mom and sister, because they were, like I said, they were still in North Carolina. They immediately got on the road and came up. I called my best friend and asked her to meet me at the hospital. And my aunt called some cousins that I had here in Norfolk to meet me at the hospital as well. So they kind of already knew, I think, before I, fully was aware, because they had been watching the news.
Wow.
So, and I even remember when I went to my neighbor's house, the look on her face when I opened the door.
And she saw the police car?
And she saw the police car. And she was watching the news and I didn't know. And when I look back on it, I was like, that's why she looked at me like she did when she opened the door.
Wow.
Was because she already knew.
Wow.
And she wouldn't say a word. She just came over and she got the kids and she, you know, she took care of them while we were gone. So, yeah.
Wow.
So my best friend met me at the hospital, and there was even my principal at the time, Vincent Darby. He met me at the hospital as well. So I felt like I was even though I knew some of the people there, I felt like I was in a room full of strangers,
Wow.
you know, at the worst possible time,
Right.
you know, in my life. But they were all there in love. So, you know, it helped, you know, with that. And one of my cousins that met me there had lost her husband a few years ago. So she knew
What to do?
what to do, what to say. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So going through that, you know, nobody knows what to do at that time.
Exactly.
It's like all new,
Yeah.
you know, and all the pressure's on you.
Yeah.
You know, how did that feel after that day, having to share that news with your children?
Yes, that was probably like the hardest thing because, you know, at that age, they don't understand that there's a finality in death. And so to tell them that, they were like, okay. And they had some questions, you know, I tried to answer as best they could, and we talked about heaven.
Right.
And a couple days later, they say, okay, so when is Daddy coming back? And that was like, you know, heartbreaking because it's like, okay, this is something that they're not going to understand right away. And I'm not sure how many times we're going to have to go through this story again, you know. But I think the hardest thing was just thinking about the fact that my husband was such a gentle and kind person that somebody would intentionally, you know, take his life. And that was, you know.
You couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, and how do you explain to little children that somebody intentionally took their father's life?
Right.
And that was a whole nother job, you know, or, you know, area of grief and, you know, getting through that process, you know.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you had to act strong in front of your family and friends, but you really weren't feeling that way? You know what I'm saying? You like, sometimes people will push us to grieve fast.
Exactly. Yeah. There were times that I won't say particularly that I felt forced to be strong, but I learned how to put a smile on my face even though I wasn't smiling inside. Mostly because I didn't want them to worry, or I just wanted them to believe that I was okay, so that things would be easier for them.
Wow.
Because typically when you're dealing with someone in grief, we want them to be okay. You know, we want them to be their normal selves. But when it comes to death and a tragic death, it changes you. And I don't think you can ever really fully be the person that you were before.
So there is no
something
normal.
Like that. Right, it's a new normal.
Right.
Is what I, you know, what I refer to it as a new normal. And I remember my mom told me that I lost my smile after it happened. She said she noticed that change in me.
Wow, but you didn't realize though.
I didn't realize it, until she said it.
Wow.
I worked with a lady that told me that she saw me when she first met me. She said, I felt that, she said, I could see the grief all over you. And this was a few years after it happened.
Wow.
And I was like, really? And I'm thinking to myself, I thought I was covering it up.
Right.
You know, I thought I was hiding it, and she could look at me and see it. So I'm not sure if she dealt with, you know, a tragic situation like that, and she knew how to identify that look, you know, or if that was the case, but yeah.
Wow.
So
how did you keep going mentally? Like, you know, months after that, you know what I'm saying? How did you keep going?
My faith in God.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We stayed in church.
Right.
Found a wonderful church home with the New Galilee, and that was, you know, like the best thing for us was staying involved with church.
Wow.
My mom, unfortunately, I lost my father as well when I was 14, so I watched my mom go through it.
Got you.
And I knew that we would be okay. You know, we learned from childhood that God, you know, we always grew up in church, and we knew that God was going to be with us. And he was. He never left us. And So seeing her and the strength that she showed after losing my father, I knew I would be okay.
Right,
I just
right,
had to
right.
keep, just keep moving forward.
Right.
I find things like walking to be
Mm-hmm.
soothing. It helps me, relax your, it helps you relax your mind and clear your head, gives you time to think,
Right, right.
and
So you still do that?
I still do that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I got involved with, I took tennis lessons,
Okay.
to try to stay active. The kids were in tennis lessons. So we kind of did that
you.
together. And when I started getting sore elbows, I kind of sat to the side and let them continue.
Right,
But,
right.
Yeah, just wanted to stay busy because I knew they were watching me.
Absolutely.
And
Wow.
I wanted them to know that even though we had suffered that major loss, that life still goes on.
Wow.
And I didn't want them to see me give up. So I needed to teach them how to continue living.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So you just didn't make it about you, but
Exactly.
it was about them.
Right. Yeah.
Them watching your example.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
I like that. Treva always say you never know who's listening, that there may be someone who's going through a similar loss. So what would you do or say to that person if you had the opportunity?
My first thing would be to say to them to take the time they need to grieve and know that in that process, there are going to be good and bad days, but try not to stay in the bad days. Just don't stay there too long because it's easy to do. It's easy. I remember mornings that I didn't want to get out of bed, but I thank God for my children because I knew I had to get up for them.
Right.
They have no idea how much they kept me going.
They pushed you.
They kept me going without even knowing what they were doing, but
That is
they
amazing.
were truly blessings. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
that is amazing.
But yeah, I would definitely say just keep busy. Find something. There's going to come a point where, and I can't tell you when because every situation is different.
Right.
But there's going to come a point where you start to feel better. The heaviness of the grief eases. And you never know. It's just one day you realize, like, wait a minute.
Wow.
It's not there anymore.
Wow. Like
not that you'll
be.
forget, but it's not as heavy. You can hop up out of bed and not think, I don't want to do this today. And it comes at a point, I can't tell you when it was, but it just like gradually.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, it happens. But just stay strong, rely on your support system, have a good, strong support system, which I had, and just find something to look forward to.
Wow.
Yeah.
You talked about faith. How important is that church family? You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness. That I have been with them so long now that they feel like my blood family. Yeah.
Wow.
And the encouraging words that I received from them.
Right.
I befriended, several ladies that had lost their husbands and they kept me encouraged.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. It's very important, relationships, having the right relationships.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nobody's an island.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Raising two children, what were some of the challenges, like when they got to be teenagers?
Right.
What were some of the challenges that you faced? Again, you never know who's listening, going through the same thing.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me, I'm very blessed with my children because they didn't really give me a lot of problems. They were, I have good kids. And, but I would say the biggest challenge probably was just not having, my husband, not having my partner, that we were supposed to be doing this together.
Together, yeah.
So that person that you would rely on to say, all right, this situation is coming up. How do we handle this? And I have to make these decisions by myself.
By yourself.
Yeah.
Wow.
But at the same time, I kind of kept in my mind, we talked a lot about parenting, before they were born, after they were born, and things that we wanted for them and how we wanted to handle certain situations. So I always kept that at the forefront of my mind when dealing with things, because I felt that was a way to honor him, was to continue the things that we had talked about, what we wanted for them.
Wow.
So even though he wasn't here with me, I could still make him proud by doing the things that we had talked about.
Amazing. Treva, how has that experience shaped you today? Like the person you are today?
Yeah.
You feel stronger, wiser?
I do.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of taught me that enjoy life. My husband was 33 years old when he died.
33.
33.
Wow.
And you can't take your time for granted.
Right.
So I just try to find joy in every day and just, keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward. I remember a few days after the funeral, I asked my best friend, I said, what am I supposed to do now? And she said, I'm going to tell you what my grandmother said when she lost her husband. It's time to get about living.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's time to get about living.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So, she kept me encouraged, and
Amazing.
she kept reminding me of that. And she still to this day reminds me. She gave me a book for Christmas, and she signed it, autographed it for me.
Right.
And it said in her comment, she wrote, "Keep moving forward." Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
So
like that.
That's the key. Is just keep moving forward.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
How do you keep your husband's memory alive? What do you do?
Okay, so we have lots of pictures around the house. Both of my children I took a lot of photos when they were babies. So I have a lot of pictures of each of them with their dad. And so on their dressers, I have pictures of them with him. So they each have their personal set of pictures. Both of them have qualities of my husband that I didn't think would be hereditary, but evidently, I don't know whether they, somehow subconsciously they still remember that, or they saw it enough to be able to emulate those, traits. But when I see that, I'll tell them, your dad used to do that. Your dad used to, my son has a way of when he's, eating and watching TV, he'll tilt his head to the side. And I looked at him one day, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're just like your dad. So I'll still take them to restaurants that were his favorite or places that he liked to visit.
Got you.
He grew up in Baltimore,
Okay.
so we would take trips back to Baltimore.
Wow.
And I would show them where he grew up.
Wow.
And, just to try to keep that part
Memory,
of their, so they'll, know where, the other part of them came from.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you're most proud of about your children today?
Their kind heart.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they're very kind, and I'm very proud of that. They're both finishing college and doing well. So yeah. And they're very active in church.
Wow.
And that's like the the big
highlight
thing for me.
of it all. Yeah. Wow.
Because I brought them there as what you consider babies, and they're still there and working. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Do they still ask about their dad today?
Not as much, and I don't know whether it's because I try to talk about him a lot, and so I may give them more than what they,
Got you.
what they really, I won't say what they really need, but I give them enough that they don't really have to, question.
Got you.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
If God would allow you to send a message to your husband, what would you say to him?
I would first want to thank him. For
That's
the
so
life
amazing.
that we had.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we had a good marriage.
Right.
And I want to thank him for that.
Yeah.
For creating those two wonderful children with me. And for the things that he taught me. He had an uncanny way of finding joy in every situation. And that was something that his mother and sister shared with me about how he was even as a young boy.
Right.
Is that when they were going through tough times, he knew, he could see that they were down, and he tried to keep their spirits lifted. So that's something that I tried, I think, and part of me trying not to let my children see me grieve as much is trying to help them, making sure that they were happy. Because I knew that's what he would do if he were here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's a very happy person.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Last question.
Okay.
What are some words that you would give a person or the audience who's listening some encouraging words to live by today? Because there's a lot of people who are losing loved ones and they need a word of encouragement. And I know by hearing your story, they will be inspired, to keep going. So what's some words that you would give them just, to live by?
Okay. I would tell them to keep moving forward. Yeah. Keep living, get about living.
Yeah. Get about living.
Yeah. Because they're, God has us here for a purpose, and we can't stay in that depressive state of grieving all the time. Don't let anybody
deep.
rush you through your process. If you need time to be alone, then be alone. If you need somebody just to sit with you and just hold your hand and not say a word, let them know that. Just let them know, I don't need any words. I just need you here.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
It's so powerful because sometimes we don't know what to say.
Exactly.
So being silent is powerful.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything.
It is. Just be here. Your presence is what I need. Yeah.
Get to living.
Yes.
It's something to live by.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you so much for being a part of M&B Media TV.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you asking me. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right.